The Movie Preview Critic. Informing and entertaining your movie world.
What's up, good movie lovers? The results are in for the box office weekend of March 20th through the 22nd, so there's only one thing left for us to do.
Break it down.
Do you hear that? The storm is brewing. The end is nearing. With 24.6 million this weekend, Knowing takes first place and makes us ask ourselves, what the were we thinking? The box office psychic predicted last week that it would make 15 million. So that was horribly, depressingly way off. What happened? Yeah, it's the first would-be event movie of the year other than Watchmen. It has a big name star attached to it, and a simple concept. Wacky, mysterious numbers have a link to disasters of the past, and possibly to the future. But come on, it's a script M. Night Shyamalan would be embarrassed to make, or an X-Files episode that we turn off after 10 minutes. I haven't seen it yet, but do I really need to? I've heard that it's not as bad as it seems, while at the same time Nicolas Cage's acting is exactly as bad as it looks. Overall, it looks like there's basically 3 action sequences in the movie. The plane crash, the subway disaster, and the city's destruction, which obviously is at the end of the movie. So what is that, like 30 minutes of screen time devoted to action? While the other hour is what? Nicolas Cage looking at numbers and pulling out some national treasure, what does it all mean expressions? Let's give ourselves an F here for rewarding this wannabe Da Vinci Code. The story isn't really all that fresh, and most importantly, we've rewarded Nicolas Cage for choosing another average movie that requires none of his acting ability. For our movie future, this is a bad sign. Just like the idea and concept of Knowing. These are the numbers that indicate the sign of the coming movie apocalypse. I Love You, Man is the first real creative comedy of the year. So far we've had Bride Wars and Paul Blart. This is basically the first highbrow, lowbrow comedy that has smarts and not just farts to it. It comes in second place with 17.8 million. That's not too bad, considering last week the psychic predicted 20 million. We should give ourselves a B here, for supporting a quality comedy in a solid way, but I just kinda wish we would have pushed it over the edge in the first place. Especially when we remember that Paul Blart made over 40 million opening weekend. It should be quote-unquote smarter than that, but then again, it's just a different kind of lowbrow humor. It's gonna be a bunch of man-love bromance jokes. It's not gonna be Shakespeare, but it's better than an effortless Saturday Night Live 90-minute sketch. Paul Rudd's career is already being impacted by this one. This week he's on the cover of Entertainment Weekly, being described as the most lovable star on the planet, and this will also have ramifications on the Judd Apatow style of comedy, which should continue to have momentum for at least the next couple of years. The box office here reflects the demographic it was aimed for, males ages 13 to 40. Duplicity takes third place with 13.9 million. Which was based on the Ocean's 11 hipness mixed with the Michael Clayton sophistication. Most of the audience for this was probably between the ages of 20 and 40, which is a really great thing. That group of moviegoers is usually ignored, so it's good to see entertainment made for them. But with the box office take here, it kind of reinforces the whole H-Wood mentality that older audience members have bills and responsibilities, so they're not going to be spending their money on just anything. And while this movie looks smart and full of who's playing who twists, it's nothing that different. It's not going to make $100 million in today's movie world. Writer-director Tony Gilroy will be able to make at least one more film, allowing him to continue to express his unique voice and vision. For Julia Roberts, this is kind of a miss for her. She really hasn't had a smash hit since 2000 with Erin Brockovich. Her days of box office strength may be fading, but then again, she has like 5 projects lined up through 2011. So we can't count her out just yet. Clive Owen continues his streak of starring in good movies that make little money, but that should have little impact on his career. He's a solid leading man with leading man look, so he won't be going anywhere anytime soon. Let's give ourselves an A for this one. As mentioned last week, The Great Buck Howard with John Malkovich is a small idea that has a small release in 55 theaters. Last week it was predicted to make 1.5 million, but only ended up making 115,000. Let's give ourselves an A here. Yes, it's probably a quality story with good acting and solid filmmaking, but the idea, again, should have been on the small screen. This is much more of an HBO movie. And there was barely any advertising for this. So if anyone deserves an F, it's the studio and the marketing department. And just a quick note, this is the first time this year when 3 major new releases of the same weekend have finished in the top 3. Now, since this week's breakdown is late, let's review places 4 through 9 next week. For now, let's quickly review what's coming up this weekend. First, the movie that without a doubt will be number 1 and will have a chance to beat Watchmen for biggest opening weekend of the year, Monsters vs. Aliens. First, it's a great name. It's so basic and understandable. It's a high concept that's borderline ridiculous. The titling style here is basically along the lines of Dracula vs. Wolfman or Aliens vs. Predator. So anyone with a second-grade understanding of English can understand what this movie's about. Also, no one's done this idea yet. It's CGI, it's in 3D, and it's a family movie, which will definitely be well written and crafted. CGI movies tend to be pretty great overall. Even the bad ones are better than the average live-action movie. The box office psychic predicts a weekend take of $60 million for this one. Then there's 12 Rounds. Can someone tell me why John Cena's movies aren't going straight to DVD? This is basically Die Hard 3 made by Renny Harlin, director of Die Hard 2. The preview gives everything away, including the ending, which basically revolves around a guy who has to complete 12 action-oriented tasks in order to save his girl from some kidnapper who's seen Saw and Die Hard one too many times. Let's hope this makes like $10. No, let's give it $20. $20. John Cena and Renny Harlin should be the only two that pay for this movie. But because Cena is the WWE star, he'll draw his fan base to the show, and this should end up making around $6 million. The final new release of the weekend is The Haunting in Conneticut. It's an Amityville horror style based on a true story exorcise haunted house movie. It's the same old with different details. Yet another horror release which we're all burnt out on, especially because haunted houses seem tired and stale, and because we're just totally exhausted from all these recent releases, which should lead most horror fans not to show up for this one. Look for it to make $5 million. So that's it for now. We'll meet back here in just a few days for an in-depth review of the top 10 of this coming box office weekend. Until then, choose your movies wisely, because remember, Hwood gives us more of what we pay for. So take care, and as always,
long live good movies.